welcome back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Ark turns out not ready for Linux, but we all kind of knew that. And the first Unreal Engine 4 game that was ever released for Linux has been delisted, probably for a good reason.
Steam cracks down on nudity. Listen, the only nipples being rubbed here are Gabe's. And failure to plan is planning to fail. That goes doubly so for multiplayer functionality.
An old game shows up on Steam, and even the joke reviews seem conspicuously absent. And the Mesa drivers get an update, and a significant amount of bug fixes.
I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual doing all this Nightmare Fuel. I'm switching the bits and all that. And I guess we call this Studio B. B stands for basement. It's kind of the new old place, and joined every week by our man, damn, all right, that way. That is one Master's Fang with his super sweet metal T-shirt on. Look at that sexiness.
They're the only shirts I own. Somebody please send help.
And from Britannia, what Pedro will
Hello. Yes, you can tell by the letterboxing.
How awesome British pizza is. It's definitely a thing.
British pizza, not terrible, but then again, it's Pizza Hut, so you have it in your place.
And also joining us is Shout Realm Dynamic, IRC, and Discord, helping us form that last little bit. Notice Code K Voltron, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what's been going on in your life organs? Pedro, what's up, man? I heard you got some things in the mail in the post.
Oh, yes. I got many things in the post, some of which will be in your face very, very soon. Yes, some laptops that may or may not be getting reviewed. Mm-hmm. So keep an eye out on that. Big thank you to the people who did send in those laptops, one of which also sent that poster. Yeah. So yeah, there will be videos coming out.
Wait a hot damn second. No, you put up a poster intentionally behind your head. What are you, like the anti-strider?
Yes. It's meant to be there so when I walk up to do something, you can see the poster.
What's going on, Jay?
That seems really stupid. Yeah. Speaking of laptops, in my personal laptop, I got one of the fans that's grinding on the side of the case. So I done ordered a new one. I ended up paying more for the shipping to get it here before October because I found out when I'm going to Finland, which is the middle of October. So that's going to be interesting. When we'll get a new location, we'll be doing this out of a hotel room for a little while, at least. I may have to find myself a decent quality headset because I'm not hauling this shit to Finland.
Speaking of crazy stuff, this is what I've been doing for the past.
Oh my god!
Making this business happen, making us look all professional and shit for like new people who stumble up on us. They don't fucking know, so don't tell them. And we're going to try to trick them into watching it. You can see all the pretty Pedros and Jordans and show notes.
Watch my arms flail.
Discord. And there's Frank. Frank's hanging out. He's back. Turns out it was kind of hard to get him down here, man, because, he's depthophobic. He doesn't have a fear of heights. He's got a fear of depths. And but
that's from getting buried too much, I think.
It was kind of horrifying. Yeah. But one thing that doesn't have the fear of depths, even though we beat it into the mothering ground every single week's a horse.
Yeah, I think it is the fear of some other D word. We'll get to that in a little bit. It's the Steam Linux update of the week. That's right. You can't show your penis on Steam anymore. Sorry, Russ.
Technically, you never could.
Hush, Pedro. I'm talking. Here, have a dick that you can't show on Steam, but you can, put it in your mouth. Anyways, so there were a couple adult-themed games on Steam, like House Party, and what was the other one called Strangers in a Strange Land. I mean, Heinlein had a bit of the free sex thing going, so I guess it's an appropriately titled name for a game. But anyways, they have been delisted. I believe it was one of the two. I forget which. Or no, it was House Party came back. They censored all the nudity, but you can download a patch that will bring it all back and play it in Steam. So ultimately, it was for naught. But this has basically raised a hubbub about what sort of nudity is allowed or not allowed on Steam, because you have games like The Witcher or Void, which you've never played because it was an obscure Windows only game, but it was actually pretty good. It also had quite a few boobs in it. It's not about a Russian studio, actually. That if they someone should fire out Linux.
True. Metro Last Light had some boobies.
Right, but the idea is apparently you can't just have explicitly pornographic games. You can't throw Custer's Revenge up on Steam. If there is sexuality as a part of it, then it's okay. Which is, I don't know. It seems like a bit of an arbitrary distinction to me, because from where I stand, it sounds like this is another case of, well, video games are there to live out your violent, bloodthirsty fantasies, but lo and behold, if someone fucking shows a nipple, it's bad.
Hey man, sometimes the coffee is just a little bit too hot. I'm trying to think, like the first time I've ever played a game, and it's like, whoa, look, a little bit of nudity, and I just remembered what it was. It was a second Phantasmagoria title.
Yes, Puzzle of Flesh.
Puzzle of Flesh. I was like, what? My brain was just not prepared for that.
Well, this isn't the first time this issue has popped up. And last time it was exactly the same. People reached the exact same conclusion. Sexual content is fine so long as the game isn't solely about that. And honestly, I can't really blame Valve, because if you've been on the internet long enough, you've been to one of those websites that has or hosts porn games. And those, the moment they get any small amount of notoriety, they turn into squalor. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. And with Valve's hands-off approach on Steam, do you really want that to happen?
It kind of already is happening. It's just not like horrific nude game or porno games. It's just bad games in general.
Well, hey man, we talked about Ark last week coming out, and well, little Zaki. It's like, hey man, I'm going to throw down a review for non-Windows users, and basically to sum this up, this is what happens when you rely on a game engine to do all your heavy lifting for you. You end up with paragraphs of legitimate Unreal Engine 4 standard default developers like, I don't know, it launches on Linux here. You can buy it and everything works. From, what do we have? Non-graphical issues, that's in-game stuff, graphical issues with UE4. A lot of this stuff you can recreate for yourself by playing the Unreal Tournament beta builds. Basically kind of reads the same. And terrible performance issues with full screen, just graphical glitches out the wazoo. I think one of the things that kind of makes it worse is just the simple fact that Ark was nowhere near ready to be put out of early access.
I played a little bit of Ark. I did a Busted Ass early access that was just so bad that it never got posted. That I think I still have that around somewhere. Maybe we'll polish that off. This was done on the old box of business, so it had the hex core, which means that the performance was already not that great. But yeah, and here's the thing. This is the biggest misstep that the Ark guys made, was because people are literally returning their games. They could have made a push. There's not really much other. There's not a lot of other polished games of this ilk on Linux. They could have at least salvaged a couple sales by shoring up the Linux issues and saying, "Hey, look, we're providing a compelling Linux game experience. Give us money." And then a couple Linux gamers may have actually, forked out the $50 or whatever.
You spoke at the crazy sauce. This is the same company that worked on its DLC before it was out of early access, man.
No, they released an expansion
I'm not saying that they're stacked with smart people. I'm just saying that they could have made a push and they didn't.
Oh, they could have, but I would have been floored and shocked. No, I think it goes without saying. The only Unreal Engine 4 title that I've seen that has made progress and is pretty much wholly playable, still early access, is Descent Underground.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was maybe another one. We'll get to that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but this is nothing new. Games coming out of early access in a completely messed up state. especially on Linux. We've seen this happen time and time again, just not with Unreal Engine 4 games. It's usually with Unity games.
That's probably. I think that's just a numbers issue though, because there haven't been a lot of UE4 games that have actually been released on Linux. So now we're really just seeing the couple primary examples.
And if we're being fair, the Arc isn't particularly. It's not a game that works all that well on Windows.
Arc is a game that doesn't particularly perform all that well on anything unless it was somebody who was an early access backer that can run it on their 486 with their Hercules graphics card at 1080p 60. I mean, that's the only person saying there's no issues with it.
Well, yeah. I think really it's time just to start playing with some balls now. I think we've proven that we've hit the maximum of our graphical fidelity. So maybe let's dial it back a bit.
Hey,
just a little bit. This is Billiards, and according to the launch date, it says it came out September 9th, 2008. So it's been a while, and honestly, I don't remember this game back in the day when I used to play like billiards or pool games
on Yahoo.
No, I mostly just played 3D Ultra Cool Pool, which this is not.
You back the hell off the Yahoo Java applet games. I played the hell out of some billiards on that. I would play checkers too.
Chess, poker, blackjack. Oh yeah. No, I was all up on that. I know that 100%.
But this one has people kind of sort of questioning themselves because so it's cheap. It's £4. $3.99 here, so that's probably around the fives everywhere else. And the operating system requirements is the minimum requirement is 10.10, and the recommended requirement is 10.12. Mm-hmm. What OS is that?
Listen, actually, what's interesting though is this isn't the first time we've seen like a Linux 10.12 requirement. So maybe these devs have like maybe Ubuntu released some like special interim 2010 version that we just never really heard about.
Yeah, it came out in December.
It could be terribly possible, but yeah, I guess this was just a game they had lying around because it just popped up. It's recently available. There's no discussion about it in the forums or anything like that, and there's one review. So it's pool. It's priced. I don't know. I got all the pool out of me because I was trapped at a summer place that I spent like 3 months at, and the only video game I had was like some Master System or it might have been for Mega Drive. It's like this horrible 2D pool game, top-down pool game. I was like, hey, I'm done with it, man. But hey, man, it's there. Let's move on to Storm United is finally pulled from Steam. Yeah, it is. It's a thing. It happened. And yeah, all right. This happened in July, I think. Yeah, 2 months ago. However, it was news to me. What's Storm United? I don't know. I've never heard. Basically, we did a early access busted access show on it. It's first-person shooter using Unreal Engine 4 that the developers wanted more money for, and they were trying to get investors to buy it, and they basically just tapped the brakes.
They moved straight to Vietnam. Apparently that relocation actually happens. But yeah, when the original dev team basically up and quit, and it got completely forked over to another developer, that never really set... Like, unless you're Vendetta Curse the Raven's Cry, you're not really going to survive that. So I don't think there was ever any real hope that this would get finished, except for maybe some of the investors who burned some money on this.
Well, it's not even necessarily that, man. It's the fact that they went completely radio silent, and they left the game up, and it got to the point where the servers would not even connect. I mean, for like maybe the past year and a half. You couldn't even get in the game, and yet it was still available for purchase on Steam. So it is gone. Pixel Beam is no more, and nothing of value was lost, right?
They were supposedly going to make a whole new game. that there was that whole, was it this game, or I keep getting two different games. It's this one and Interstellar Marines. I keep getting the two confused.
Interstellar Marines is still, dude. All right, I almost admire the developers behind Interstellar Marines, because you look at the forums like, when are you guys coming to early access? We're never coming out of early access.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just early access. Anyways, we got some DLC for a game that I've been really wanting to play for a while. This is Tyranny: Bastard's Wound. So, Obsidian had, after the success of Pillars of Eternity, they said, "Hey, maybe there's some demand for some original RPGs from us." So they released Tyranny to some critical aplomb. And I know Osiris played the crap out of it, because back when we were playing D&D, he would like talk about it quite a bit. So it's been on my radar for a while, and they have an expansion out for about 15, 16, 17 bucks, depending on where you live.
Okay. Here's what it was. It was the Windows requirement. For your operating system, you need an ATI Radeon, processor ATI Radeon, graphics ATI Radeon. sound card ATI
I
Radeon.
see it. Right.
Yeah. See, I didn't even see that, because
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is why Linux is superior. You only need one ATI Radeon in order to play the Linux.
This is true. So the DLC comes with a brand new area. It comes with a bunch of companion quests to get you more acquainted with the people you're going to be horrible to. And they released a patch for the base game as well that launches alongside this. That comes with a bunch of new voice work as well. So I mean, maybe Obsidian can send us some keys for this. We'll throw some shares at it. Maybe, I don't know.
No,
I'd very much like that. Otherwise, I'd probably end up just buying this in the base game. They have it on sale for
at the time, and they said that they were now dealing with a PR company specifically. And when I emailed the PR company said, "Oh, it's our policy that we only send one key per outlet." Well, then. No,
brilliant.
Thanks.
Well, either way, it's on sale, so you can pick it up for around $40. So that's not too bad. Yeah, if you like RPGs on Linux, Baldur's Gate style, this is kind of up your alley.
I just kind of want to say that it's okay. We don't need to review copies of it, guys. Just keep it.
Send it. Make Ven miserable.
No.
But finally, we got some spec.
Yes, in space, Everspace to be more specific. It's there's a Linux version. You don't see the Linux icon if you go to the store page, but there is an unofficial quote-unquote Linux version. It is totally an official Linux version. It's just that they're having issues with it, so they don't want to publicize it too much just yet. But of course they want publicity, because like the way that they announced it, I was reading the announcement and I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that they are totally running out of players. The game is not as popular as they intended it to be, and they don't have anyone playing it anymore. So they're desperately trying to get more people to play the game. So let's push it out to the
this is not
Linux
Elite Dangerous, right?
What?
It's not Elite Dangerous or whatever that 100 gigabyte game was that's been in development on CryEngine and then Unreal Engine and so on. I'm spacing on the name
Star
right now.
Citizen. It's not
Star Citizen. Yeah, so it's not those games, but it's similar.
This one is just single player. It's just a purely single player game, and I checked the Steam charts, and lo and behold, over the past 2 months, they have lost about 3/4 of their player base. So time to get some money out of those gullible Linux users.
As North Ranger kind of points out, it's probably still a better love story than No Man's Sky. But hey, man, at least it's wicked cheap, right?
Oh, no, it isn't. See, over here, it's £22. I can only imagine that translates to like $25 or $29.99.
$33 Canadian for the base game. So if you actually want to know about the Linux version of it, there's a thread in their community forums. Mm-hmm. And there's apparently some issues. It doesn't launch through Steam. If you launch it via the command line, it runs perfectly fine. And they are not supporting AMD graphics cards. Apparently, some people have gotten it working. ? But
well, you got to be. Let's just be honest with ourselves, man. I mean, if you got an AMD graphics card, you don't walk into any game expecting
No, but open source drivers mean that I can change the drivers to make it work with the closed source proprietary game. And anyways, I mean, it looks all right, and I'm actually curious if the VR stuff works under Linux, because it apparently does support OS VR. So that would be kind of interesting if they did get it working. But it's a bit of a high asking price, and none of us have a Vive or whatever. We'd have to ship the one copy we get sent to empty, because
I was about to say. I mean, listen, if it supports the Vive, and I'll just get empty a copy, and we'll send it to him as long as he records himself. But he's got to put like a shitload of cables and stuff on the floor though to keep it interesting.
Yeah, and like just have a piñata hanging, and he's just running around with a bat.
Yeah. It'll be brilliant. Hey, that's going to close it up for the news. Steam.
Yeah. Coming up next, it's been a while, but we got some driver news and also boobs. So many boobs on Linux.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stick around for the news. We actually have some drivers this week. But before we do, well, you lot are awesome. You are.
Amazing.
Every single week, you keep on giving us money.
Supporting the show, he means.
Insanity.
Listen, you can't go beg for money on the internet. That's improper. That is completely asinine.
Jordan.
What?
I need a battery video.
Goddamn C-Monster.
God, and about that time I realized I wasn't actually on a Linux gaming podcast. I was just talking to a 300-foot crustacean from the Mesozoic era. And if you too want to speak to large extinct crustaceans, you can head on over to linuxgamecast.com. Click the support the show button. We got Amazon affiliate links. We got Amazon affiliate links. We got Amazon wish lists. We got PayPal buttons. We got magical internet, Bitcoin, QR codes. You can support us all those great many ways. We appreciate it. It allows us to do crazy stuff like build out new studios. We get the creepy shot. We got the Multar mode for Ven now. That's pretty good. Check it out. Woo! We got some people we got to thank. But first, before we do that, we got to tell them about the patreon.com/LinuxGameCast, where you can support this show week in, week out. If we don't put out a show for a week, you don't get charged. So that's pretty good. There's also a lot of content. We closed out at over 207, which means I think this week we're gonna put together some Serious Sam live stream. We'll work out the details and post them in chat realm or on Twitter at some point.
Hey man, what's all the stuff on the right side? It's like you get we got reward tiers. You get extra stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. You get access to like Patreon only Discord channels or Discord modes. You get access to show notes if you're paying for $2.50 an episode. It's good stuff. There's all sorts of neat things. If you give us enough money, you just get an open seat on the show.
That sounds like an incredibly horrible idea. But then again, when I said that, I was like, yeah, that's some dumb shit we'd do. And hey, everyone, thanks for making this possible. I do want to thank. All right, somebody's got to set up new buttons.
Yeah, well, we got Jill and Steve.
We got Michael, dude, he kind of like murder rated our like wish list with some clamps and light boxes. And Jill and Steve, Jill and Steve, they just were like so awesome. All this beautiful soundproofing. This is pretty decent stuff, because if you look for soundproofing on the interwebs, like what the YouTube kids are using, you'll get like 6 or 12 of these panels, like $40. Like, are you fucking high? This is the same shit. Go check our wish list on the purchase stuff. This is like a 50 pack for under $50. So
that's a bucket tile. That's a steal.
It's pretty good. But thanks everyone for supporting the show, making this possible. So we do this like half-hearted commercial read and try to plug ourselves. If you can, like, share the show, tell people about it, tell a dog, tell a cat, or anything that'll listen to you. And if it tries to run, try to outrun it. It's awesome.
In under 20 minutes. That's pretty good.
Oh, Pedro, don't we do something on Wednesdays?
Oh, yeah, on Wednesdays. That's that other thing we totally promise. We do it in 30 minutes or more.
Oh, that's gone.
It's Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays. It's a midweek break from all the gaming stuff where we talk about, it's me and Ven. Used to have Strider. Every now and again we'll have a guest in. where we just talk about the regular old Linuxy stuff, like distro announcements, kernel updates, all that. Maybe more technical, maybe slightly less so. It's also a lot less sweary. So if you don't like the F-bombs we drop
it's
here,
kind of
you can
brilliant.
go watch
It lets you get all of your Linux news with none of that pesky accuracy. So
yeah, that too.
It's good times.
Good
hey,
stuff.
man, let's start this news segment off right. And by right, I mean with drivers.
Oh, yeah. So Mesa 17.2.0 is out, and they say people who are concerned with stability and reliability should stick to a previous release or wait for 17.2.1. That's just good advice all around. Now, with the 17.2.0, they've implemented OpenGL 4.5 completely. It's fully integrated. Everything is in there. But the version reported by GL string, GL version, or some of the other variables depends on the particular driver being used. If you have an R600 card, for instance, you still don't get OpenGL 4.2, even though it supports it, because there are a few extensions that may or may not work depending on your hardware. And since the fine folks at Mesa, even though they have a lot of different hardware, they can't test for everything. So yeah, they also implemented a bunch of ARB extensions, which may look familiar to you if you were paying attention when we were talking about OpenGL 4.6 a few weeks back.
They weren't kidding. When Kronos made the announcement about OpenGL 4.6, they were saying that they had open sourced a large portion of the test suites, which would allow guys like Mesa to start supporting OpenGL 4.6 a lot faster. And they weren't kidding, because if you check Mesa Matrix,
75% done.
Yeah, not quite 75% done, but for NVC 0, Radeon SI, and i965 or i695, whatever the hell the Intel driver is, they all have 50%, at least 50% of OpenGL 4.6 features implemented in the drivers, not just in software. I did notice very, very, very quickly, though, that SPIR-V support for OpenGL 4.6 is probably going to be the last feature to be implemented, because that's a bit of a big one. Yeah. But considering OpenGL 4.6 is like not even like 2 months old now, it's pretty amazing that they have all that progress made.
And Mesa itself, the stack actually has like 78.5% support for the full stack. Of course, individual drivers will also have lesser support. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want software support, if you want software rendered OpenGL 4.6, yeah, go nuts.
Yeah.
But, it's gonna run like a bit of a butt.
Yeah, and they also have like a list of bug fixes, which is very comprehensive, and including
they're still supporting Witcher 2.
Yeah, and some wine support for Doom, especially with Rad V.
They got a SAM fix.
Yeah. They also have a Rocket League fix if you were having issues with grass not rendering properly in Rocket League. Now it does. There's quite a lot.
Man, I could just imagine how are you doing it, because a large portion of rocket cars is grass. If that wasn't rendering properly, you imagine that it was some type of LSD fueled nightmare.
Yeah, that's when you lower
green. Apparently, Doom has some issues where it was just showing all green. Now it's back to showing all red.
Oh, nice, man. Hey, something that might take that red out of your eyes is, man, Humble's been freaky as of late. Not to be outdone, last week, they come with the Huni Secura bundle, which, man, you just...
Anime boobies!
Yeah, it's right there. It's right there in your face. You know what's on the tin, what you're getting into. This is 100% like too hot for you to... Jeez. Wow.
To their credit, most of the games here do actually have Linux versions. I mean, they're visual novels, so that's not really asking much.
Well,
but
to be fair...
You can get your hentai self-insert fantasies under Linux. It's great. If you don't have a girlfriend because you're too busy playing hentai games, I mean, this is perfect.
Well, let me ask you this. I honestly had not scrolled down that bundle. I got the vapors. I'm guessing this is all text adventure bullshit, right?
More or
Not
less.
all of it.
Not even text adventures, just like straight up visual novel.
Most of them are visual novels. Yeah, but there are 3 games in that bundle. Honey Pop is a match 3 Bejeweled type of thing. Honeycam Studio is like a spreadsheet management sim type of thing. And Sakura Dungeon is an old-fashioned dungeon crawler with, of course, considering we're talking about the anime boobs bundle, it has the ubiquitous anime tits all over the place.
You know, I was kind of disappointed when you and Sandman were streaming Thursday. Because I noticed it was showing notifications when other people were playing games. I was like, damn it, I downloaded Angels with Scaly Wings and launched it just to make it show up on your screen. And it didn't show up. I was very sad. It's like, boo, I just cut the stream off there.
Man, we still need to do a chairquisition of that.
Yeah, we definitely got to give that a business at some point. What do we get up next? We got a short news segment this week.
Yeah, we really do. But we got some multiplayer issues. So
hang on. One thing we do need to see what does this bundle cost?
Not like a whole lot right now. It's if you want all the games, you need to pay $10.
$10. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
For $7.09
for all but one. Yeah. Anyways, Planet Nomads. So people are still super salty about No Man's Sky, as it seems there was all sorts of hype about what that game was and was not. And when it got released, people got mad. And so people began to create new games that would fill the void. Planet Nomads was one of them. And they released a bit of an update here saying they've confirmed everyone's fears. They are not going to be implementing multiplayer. And the reason behind that is they didn't really, and they describe this all in their news post, links to all this stuff in our show notes. The reason is they didn't decide whether they wanted to have online multiplayer from the get-go, and they said, we'll put it off. Now we have to refactor all our code if we want to include online multiplayer, and that is the problem, because you cannot decide to just say, we're going to tack on some multiplayer feature. It doesn't work all that well. Your design from the ground up has to be robust enough that you can insert new players, whether they are network players or local players or AI players. Treat it as just an additional entity. You have to have this in your game design. Otherwise, the multiplayer is going to look like, I don't know, Synergy Co-op or Charlie Murder.
To be fair, Charlie Murder did get fixed. So now it looks pretty spot on.
Yeah, I don't know what you crackheads are talking about. Charlie Murder was only local co-op, and they went back and added multiplayer online for it. The fact that even fucking works, son, I was like, all right, I am completely impressed by that. You know, I'm not going to sit and bitch about the fact that can even be done.
Kind of nailed it on that one.
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it becomes really, really troublesome to implement these features at a later date. You need to sort of have this already.
I don't know, decisions like this kind of worry me a little bit. I mean, because it's such a fantastic way to disenfranchise your already small player base and completely turn off new players. You definitely see somebody had read this and went, ooh.
Yeah, don't want to play it anymore. I'm totally with you on that one.
And
it's like,
Jordan's completely right, because multiplayer is not something that I've ever seen successfully tacked on later. I think even the best attempts by some incredibly clever people doing that with Half-Life 2, which we played, it never really works. And trust me, that's been under development for since ever. But yeah, it's kind of sad to see, but is anyone really surprised here?
I'm not even shedding like a single tear of boredom, honestly.
Yeah, no, you see, this is one of those games that if it ever comes out of early access, I may play it. But yeah, it's just one of those that it tickles that side of your brain that if you're the kind of person who likes to play, say, American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator.
Well, help me out, because I know exactly fuck and or all about Planet Nomads. What is it as a game?
It is a survival game where you're basically dropped down on a planet and you need to survive. And then if you have the resources...
we do a review of an online version of a game just like that?
Yeah, we did, and it sucked. Though it did have some interesting CUDA functionality, which was a bit nifty.
But anyways, to be fair, Planet Explorers, that was the name. That was that had more than one game type that you could play. You had the survival mode, you had the story mode, you had the...
But Pedro, it was designed from the ground up to support multiplayer. That was part of their intention from the beginning. And that's why, as kind of slapdash as the game was, at least in my opinion, the multiplayer at least worked. You could get people together and start building structures and whatnot.
I don't know. Here's the thing. What do you think, Jordan? Is in 2017, unless, just say effectively, you're building a platforming game, if your scope's kind of out of that, all right, here's a better way to say it, Vin. If you have local co-op, you should have online co-op.
This is true. If at any point someone says, "Hey, you know what would make this game kind of fun? Some network multiplayer or some multiplayer." Yeah, think about implementing some network multiplayer. Or at least make your engine extensible enough that you can shim that in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's time to get a little racist.
Hey man, Yorg is out. We've covered this maybe like 6 or 7 months ago.
A while back.
Been updated. This is version 0.7. The biggest, most frightening. It's a little racing game. You kind of don't need to run around in circles, but you kind of run around into walls in this. But you do have weapons. They've kind of added that. It's a thing. This is completely built from the ground up using all open source tools too. And
is it Ogre or is it
Panda?
Panda.
Panda engine, they've added a new track and a new car, singular. Still not working over here with the Xclone controller, which is kind of sad. Playing it with the keyboard, controls seem a lot better than the first time I tried to play it. I do want to give this...
They added a family vehicle, it looks like.
Project pro tip for your web zone, my friends. Put a mothering download link on your page, because this takes a little bit of sleuthing around in order to get a copy of your game. Like maybe right here to your GitHub so I can yoink it and compile it. That would be really nice. But it does have multiplayer, so it's got that going for it. Did anybody try? I downloaded it. It's great. Also, maybe drop your installer and just give me a folder option to launch your game.
I still have the old version installed. I haven't tried the update.
It's a racing game, so unless you guys are strapping me down to a chair and forcing me to play it for a CHAIRQUISITION.
Well, I mean, this is a fun. If they get the multiplayer sorted, I still haven't had a chance. Maybe that's something Pedro and I will laughably fail at Tuesday. Stay tuned. That could be in our future, playing with keyboards. But it reminds me of, like, on the original NES, there was some like RC Pro Truck thing, which was just cartoonish, where you drove around in circles, kind of like this. And it's got some stunt stuff in it. It's completely free. Maybe we can get a bunch of people and we can all fail together. It will be a thing. But yeah, I just wanted to give that a little plug. And yeah, multiplayer might be more interesting now just because we have weapons and yeah. Where's your guy now?
Weapons and family vehicles. But it's time to talk about shell scripts, Pedro.
Yes, and apparently someone was really, really bored because have you ever, if you use libretro, have you ever wanted something like APT or DNF or
fucking AI app? That was like Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Where the hell was this project?
Well, apparently it was already there. No, September 9th. Okay, then it wasn't there. But yeah, no, this is very recent. It's literally APT or DNF for your libretro cores. What are cores? The cores are the things that actually allow libretro to emulate games. So they're basically a self-contained emulator. Yeah, they're self-contained emulator modules for libretro to let it say you download or you acquire a ROM of a
you get one of those appliances that lets you rip binary copies of NES games. Yeah.
let's say you have a bunch of those stored away somewhere, and with LibRetro, what it lets you do is you just double click on it, and boom, it starts up with the right core, everything. All you need to do is a little bit of background work to get those cores set up, make sure your whatever controller you happen to be using is properly set up, all of that. But this is just a way to manage those cores, the ones you have installed, the ones you want to remove. If there was an update for a core and you just want to get it without having to manually go to the GitHub, compile the core, then drop it into the folder, this can do that. It shows you the cores that are currently installed, their versions, everything else, and you also get log files if something happens to go wrong during one of the builds. So I guess it's good.
Yeah, it actually does grab. It can grab the precompiled stuff from their build bot, which is also kind of nice. I mean, most of the LibRetro shit I do is on the RetroArch, so this isn't really useful for me. But maybe if you run like a headless arcade box, or I don't know, something. So you've built like a cabinet and you need something just to remote into it to manage LibRetro. This might be useful? Question mark. I don't really know. Ben, talk to me about emulators. You're the emulation master, right? Right. Exactly. Coming up next, we're gonna bring the song and we're gonna bring the brown.
Not touching that.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. What is it? It's a game because we're throwing some chairs at it. And because I've been contractually obligated or mandated to do this, the CHAIRQUISITION. What is it? It's a place where we sometimes devs send us some games, sometimes we buy games. We play them, we give them the Rochambeau, maybe do a little QA that the devs should have done before they actually put the game out. And we're gonna throw some chairs at Songbringer. It's from Wizard Fu Games. It's developed on the Couscous 2D-X engine, which is really high in fiber, I assume. You can pick it up for around 20 of your local currency. What is it? Songbringer is the sci-fi RPG with swords, secrets, dungeons, bosses, and stuff. All sorts of stuff. You play as the protagonist and accidental hero Rock, and I'm not going to even bother with that one. Yeah, with the propensity for partying and making music, he cruises the galaxy with a skybot Jib aboard the ship Songbringer in search of verdant planets in the absence of the presence of galactic police. So this guy's Mick Jagger. When Rock finds the nanosword hidden on a Kazuria, he unwittingly awakens an ancient evil. The sword is pretty sweet, though. It hums. It does make some legitimate lightsaber noise. Basically, this is Hipster Pixel Zelda, except worse. Devs did send us some keys for that, so let's kick off the CHAIRQUISITION. We rate everything on a scale from 1 to 4 chairs. 1 chair means that's garbage. 2 chairs means that's meh. 3 chairs means that's pretty good. 4 chairs means that's awesome. And we got our categories of doom, makes with the working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So let's toss some chairs at Songbringer. We'll turn it up, bring the noise, then make with the working.
Well, let's take a look over here on a new Box of Business 2.0 Tipsy Danger. With an AMD Ryzen 1700 clocked at 3.7 gigajoules, 16 gigabytes of RAM, powered with a 980 displayed at UHD. Didn't have any issues out of the box, Brad, except for one. Really the only thing I can say, you don't expect a Hipster Pixel game to really have any issues, except maybe some resolution issues, and this one kinda did. I can't get it to go completely full screen using XFCE 412. It won't overtake my taskbar and my launcher bar. It just won't. Nothing I can do. Not really complaining because let's set 28 inches. Giggity. It's big enough. You really don't want to stretch it out too much further. So, rocking that out with 3 chairs.
Yeah, on Fedora 26 64-bit on the i7 6700K. And the GTX 980, no real issues. I didn't have that thing that Ben ran into with the window full screen thing. Also tried that out on the Steam box, the A1050 5800K and the GTX 750 Ti. No real issues there. I'd give it a solid 4 cheers.
Oh, hang on. Burp.
Burp.
Yeah. Over here, I did have an issue. Not entirely sure this is how the game is supposed to work, and judging by the fact that no one else seems to have run into, it's probably not. But whenever I start the game, it tells me to hold up on the controller, and I do. I grab my Steam controller and I hold up, or I push the analog stick all the way up. And then the moment it's done with that, it starts the Steam controller configuration tool and minimizes the game. So then you close the configuration tool and the game doesn't re-maximize itself or re-full screen. It just stays minimized, which means you then need to go click it on the taskbar and bring it back up. If every time I start your game, you're quite literally shoving something else in my face and hiding said game, I'm not going to be starting your game too many times. That's just a warning. But with taking that into account on the FX8370E with the 1080, it ran well enough so it gets 3 cheers.
All right, well, that's 3 cheers for Mix with the Working. I actually ran into a similar issue with the on-screen keyboard. I just thought I was hitting the key chord for the on-screen keyboard, and I may have been. Anyway, Shiny and Sounds. Ven, how'd this game look and or sound?
Take a look at it, baby. It's kind of awesome. It's hipstery. It's pixel. But it's what I like to call hipster pixel done right. It's right there in your face organ. Just look at it, burning through your rod cells, your cone cells, melting your brain. Again, it's done right. I like the look. I mean, it's true to form. It's cohesive. It's colorful. You know, it's not a pixel brown simulator. It's a little bit blurry. It's a little bit... I could imagine this is what would pass for an extremely high-end NES game. Down with, I kind of went, whoa, look, pixel reflections in the water. Oh, I bet developers wish they could do that back in the day. So yeah, I like it. I like what it does. I like how it looks. I can't say anything negative about it. And I can say something doubly positive about those sounds, man. Do yourself a favor and put on your headset, because I don't know what it is. I think Jordan kind of hit it. If it's like techno oons or something done in a chiptune, I like that, chiptune style, that works. I don't know why it works. Maybe, I don't know. But I dig it. I made it a point. The bit I've gotten to play it this week. Listen, I'm not jamming out to it, but I'm really liking it. And everything's well done. Everything's well done. Nothing to complain about. So I can roll this thing straight out with 4 not hipster pixel chairs.
I honestly think the game's kind of fugly, to be perfectly honest. Like, god diggity damn. It looks like they were trying to go with like the same sort of visual aesthetic that Hyperlight Drifter or Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery went with. But I don't know. It may have been the screens I've been playing on, but it just kind of looks kind of crappy and blurry. Some of the lighting effects don't work all that well, and they just kind of look bad. Especially when there's lots of like enemies on the screen, it's kind of hard to tell what you're swinging at too, just because everything's kind of this darkish clump. Especially when you get into some of the dungeons, when you don't have a persistent light source, it just gets particularly egregious. The soundtrack doesn't really do anything for me either. I mean, like, there's sort of like the not Zelda noises when you finish a room or you get a chest. It goes like, which is like not quite the Zelda noise, I guess. It's just enough to script copyright. It's a nice little touch, but the wubs don't really do it. I had to knock the volume down significantly just because I was not enjoying the soundtrack at all. But it started off as like really annoying and eventually kind of ground me down to just a minor nuisance, I guess. It shows things on the screen. It plays sounds when you swing your sword, and it plays music. So it doesn't get 1 chair, but it does get 2.
Yeah, I honestly don't like the hipster pixels on this one either. But seeing as this is a one-man job, yeah, this game was built by the one person. The actual meat of the game itself is perfectly acceptable, but more on that later. I'm kind of sort of willing to give him a pass on this one. The sounds, That's where it's at. The chiptune music can get a bit annoying at times. I won't say it doesn't, because it does. It genuinely does. But for the most part, it really does a good job setting the mood. The atmosphere is very much, at least I feel that it's very much enhanced by the chiptunes, and that's a good thing. It's like Hyperlight Drifter level good chiptunes. And sound effects, also pretty good. Very meaty style sound effects, and your sword just sounds a lot like a lightsaber. So, yeah, 3 chairs.
Yeah, that's 3 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Up next is Controls.
Hey, I guess I'm next, man. Exclude controller worked out of the box, no issues. Up went up, down went down, left went right. And kind of dig it. Everything's logically laid out. If you're looking at the video, it clearly tells you what button does what. I don't know if it changes if you hook it up to a PS4 or what type of nightmare fuel might happen with the Steam controller. But I can say, personal experience, Exclude controller, no issues. Nothing to complain about. Controls are tight. Normally, this is where a lot of these games, if they look really nice and everything else is going on right, they kind of fall apart. But it works. Maybe with like a slight bit more accuracy when attacking enemies, but there's not enough to legitimately say, oh, that's broken, because it's not. So you can do a solid 4 and go to bed at night.
Oh yeah, no, the controls are real solid here. They're responsive. There's no real scenario in which I feel like, oh, I pressed the button and I got bullshitted into losing some health. It even picks out what controller you have when you start up the game. It'll show you a little icon for a PlayStation 4 controller or an Xbox controller. And if you have a Steam controller plugged in, it'll show you the thing for Xbox controller, and then there'll be a small picture of a Steam controller in the lower hand corner. The prompts, though, do at least in whatever mode I was using a Steam controller in, they show up as keyboard keys, because for whatever reason I think it's in like keyboard mouse emulation mode or something. But everything works beyond that. You can basically assign whatever you want to one of the face buttons in terms of equipment, so you can find your style and go around with it. No issues whatsoever. I'll give it straight 4 chairs.
Yeah, it's actually one of the things, like Jordan already mentioned. With the Steam controller, it's not exactly the same as the Xbox prompts that it gives you, because all the buttons in the Steam controller are blue along the prompts. If you're looking at the video right now, along the bottom, the prompts are blue. But if you have an Xbox controller, or in my case, the Logitech F310, you actually get like the proper color code for those buttons. And apparently, if you're using a DualShock, it also recognizes that, so that's actually really, really interesting. I have never heard of this engine, but apparently there should be some SDL magic too happening in the background, so good on them for that. 4 chairs.
Yeah, no, for sure, no real issues with the controls here. But finally, let's put a bow on it. Ven, did you have fun playing Songbird?
Yeah, man. Full disclaimer.
Songbringer. Yeah.
Hey, man. Don't be my sunshine with my summertime and all that. Full disclaimer, I might have enjoyed this game a lot more than I normally would have, because it's really the only thing I had a chance this week to play, because it was technically something that had to get done. And I liked it. This thing does a lot of stuff right. Right from the get-go at the launch, it does make you curious to the story, engaging. So what's going on here? Is this just a little, am I going to walk around and kill a couple of things, and that's all going to be like that Hipster Pixel 2D platformer we played a little while back at Strider really loved. This makes you curious as hell, probably within the first 5 minutes, and it gives you little treats. It's like, oh, here's your sword. Oh, here's a top hat. All right, I have a powered magical top hat. That's also a thing. That's kind of brilliant. And the upgrade progression, you can already see where that's going to go. You got a little bot that's kind of psychotic. You run into the pig dude. He's doing a thing. He's like, man, I need some liquor. He hooks you up. Then you got your map. You know how the old school maps work. All that's going good. It's kept me engaged. And if I had to knock it for one thing, but I'm just at the beginning. The enemies seem kind of random as hell. And it's like, I kind of like this enemy, so I'll smatter some here, smatter some here. The boss fights, not a whole lot to them, but the bosses are well done, genuinely kind of creepy. And you can see there's just a lot more to unlock. I want to see what the actual playtime for me, the playthrough time, is going to be for this game. Because you start getting new abilities, and you're getting them at a quick enough pace to where it's keeping me engaged, like the ability to jump 3 steps ahead and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, having a good time with it. And, $19.99 one-person project. Is it Dust and Elysian Tale? No, it's not. Is it a hipster pixel game? Abso-fucking-lutely it is. Is it lazily done? No, it's amazing for a one-person project. And yeah, good on it. It is something I'm glad exists. And even with the humor, most of it hits. Doesn't knock it out of the park, but definitely good enough for government work and just a fantastic job all around. I feel comfortable giving this one a 3.
I mean, it's an ugly Zelda game. It's the ugliest Zelda game on Linux, but it's not actually terrible. One of the cooler things I watched last year on YouTube was Pro Jared doing a randomized version of Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and that was really interesting because it just changed the location of all the items. And so even if you knew the game backwards and forwards, you didn't know where everything was, and you still had to explore. And I think this game does that really, really well. With the name that you pick is a random seed for the game that you play. So every time you pick a new name, you get something different. Yeah, mine was fuck, but either way, either way, it's interesting because it gives everyone a different experience, and it really does encourage exploration because I didn't even find the first dungeon. I stumbled into the second dungeon, accidentally beat it. Stumbled into the 7th dungeon, realized I was missing some items, went looking for stuff, stumbled into the 4th dungeon, found the bombs that I needed to progress in the 7th dungeon, went back, and now I'm clearing that out. And this is fairly typical from my experience playing Zelda, right? You don't have to do everything in order. There's some stuff where it requires specific pieces of equipment, but it does require you to actually go and engage with the game, which is really good. The visuals though really, really kind of spoil it for me. There are these long cinematics that I really don't care about. They're not particularly well animated. I feel the writing fell a little flat for me. Everything seems kind of dark, which is annoying when you get into dungeons, especially like in the 7th dungeon where it's just super dark all the time and you can't see shit and you just start losing health. You're like, why is this? Oh, if I swing my sword, something died. So clearly there's something here. I don't know. There's a good game in here, and maybe if you get one of the good seeds and you get a very sort of straightforward experience, your experience will be different. I don't know. That it is kind of compelling to get the sense that every playthrough will be different. The game that I played is different from the game that Pedro played and Ben played, and so on and so forth. So that is definitely interesting. I'm gonna give it 2 chairs. It's not great, but it does some good stuff. It does some interesting things, and I think it deserves some credit for it.
All right. Well, I never really liked Zelda. I kept reading. I kept reading about this game being compared to Zelda, and by looking at it, it struck me about as much Zelda as Hyper Light Drifter or even Salt and Sanctuary. And I thought to myself, that's not really a fair comparison to make. Well, I was wrong. This shit's pretty much Zelda, with some rogue elements. There's permadeath, if you want. All the levels are randomized, they're seed-based. And there's a complete and utter disregard for level design because it's actually very hard to navigate at points because of all that random generation. But you know what? That's fine. I like me some roguelike elements. I like me some roguelike games. if introducing those into a game that's shouting, I want to be Link to the Past so goddamn much, if that helps me enjoy a Zelda clone, then by all means, introduce them. But it doesn't. Legend of Zelda may have started a genre or subgenre, and it's still very successful to this day, but Songbringer isn't doing enough work from that basis and still differentiate itself in any significant way. Oh yeah, it's the hipster pixel. Fugly hipster pixel. It's got roguelike elements, okay? It's even got a story that's trying to be deliberately campy for the lulz. And it wasn't working for me. And yeah, none of this is working for me. It's not making me like this Zelda clone type game. I'm not one of those nostalgia-ridden lumps of carbon that goes about life longing for the past. I like new things. Give me new things, new concepts, new games, something for me to play that is not just a blatant nostalgia grab. So for me, it gets 2 chairs because I will recognize its competence in what it can do and the simple fact that no 2 people will ever play the exact same game. And that right there is not just for multiple people, but for multiple playthroughs. That is a very good thing for a video game to have. And the fact that it doesn't lead you down a corridor and say, this is the story you're going to experience, period. No, you can literally take on any of the dungeons in any order, so long as you're good enough for it. All of the, usually the stuff that is blocked out is only blocked out if it's optional, so you can basically get through the story without even hitting any of the blocked out areas. So it's not horrible, but it's still not selling me on the Zelda subgenre. So it gets 2 chairs.
All right, well, that's 2 chairs for fun total. We tally all this up, and lo and behold, Songbringer gets 3 chairs. Take that, Strider. Final thoughts?
Shit. Where is the... God damn it. I've actually lost it. There it is. Not sure.
Hey!
Okay, yeah, man. Straight up, check it out. So, gentlemen, final thoughts on this. Yeah, $20. Listen, I've probably played the original Zelda a dozen times. I've probably never put more than a full hour into it. This, even with a random generation, man, I can't find anything to hate on. It's like, yeah, all right. And Jordan, with the flashback, with the cutscenes, it's like, yeah, that's story. It's trying to explain what happened and why you're here and how you met the bot and all that.
Zelda did that with minimal text. Minimal!
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's actually one of the things that this game does have is a lot of text and a lot of campy dialogue. No.
Yep, two things that are great, and unfortunately these hipsters can't appreciate and or read.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. It's an all right game. Someone said to themselves they wanted to make a Zelda game. And they made a Zelda game. We get the multiple angles. Ooh, do we get the shot reverse shot with the middle fingers? Can we get that? Can we get all Kuleshov effect on this?
What?
See, this is why you don't give us production values, because then we go around and do shit like that.
Then we immediately go to this shit. Yes, I understand.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we got some hate mail, and we're gonna see how the new rig handles that, and maybe pirate some software in the meanwhile.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's that time. It's a time when we say goodbye, but not before we get to read what you have to say to us, because it's only fair. I keep saying this. We spend however much time we just spent shouting in your direction. It's only fair that you get a chance to shout back at ours. And you can do that by going to LinuxGameCast.com. You hit the contact button, you fill out the form. It's pretty easy. Make sure LGC Weekly is the one picked on the little drop-downy thing. And if you're a game developer, include 3 keys, be them for Steam, Humble, GOG. Did they do keys? I don't know. But if you also happen to have a prototype build in a tar.gz or even a zip file, that we can share among the three of us, we can do that. So make sure to include your game. If we can't play your game and you're trying to get us to promote it, we're just going to make fun of you. And trust me, you don't want that. Okay?
Or maybe you do.
Maybe you do.
They say that all publicity is good publicity, Pedro. So anyways, this first one's a bit of a reply. You can check out part 1 of this when Evandro had drunkenly sent us this hate mail last week. So he sent some clarifications because we weren't quite sure what he was going on about. So he says, hey, 2 things to say. But before some context, this is a correction of the hate mail shown on last week. My point was that Ven said The Escapist 2 was like Prison Architect, but Jordan said it was the other way around. But Prison Architect already has that mode too. Read the forum link again. And number 2, I apologize for the drunk hate mail, but that is your fault. Peace out, Evandro. Well, good to have that sorted out. Yes, you were right. Prison Architect does have a mode where you can play as a prisoner trying to escape prison. I was wrong. It happens a lot because I'm stupid.
And admittedly, not a whole lot of people, at least none of us, play Prison Architect.
Did we ever review that?
Nope.
No.
Because I know I got it because it was in Humble Bundle.
Yeah, I have it too from that same Humble Bundle, but
it's in every Humble Bundle pretty much. You're like, oh yeah, I'll pay more than this to unlock Prison Architect.
It was like a five quid, something like that. It was pretty cheap. I don't know. It's just dark, man. Especially in the States because the prison system is like for profit. So
yeah.
Boo. So was that it, or do we have anything else?
Wait, we got one more from Miko Farmer, and he says, "Yar, why I don't switch to Linux 100% for gaming? Because I'm a filthy pirate and don't mind saying so. Cracked copies of games for Linux are severely lacking, and until that changes, I'll stick with Windows." Anyway, I'm pretty sure we all have a bit to say about this.
There's something to be said for honesty. This is definitely true. Hey, man, I mean, I know a lot of people grew up, they wanted to play things that they didn't have the money for, and later in life transitioned into paying customers. That's a real thing. I mean, really, copy protection, fucky DRM only hurts paying customers. Because that shit's cracked within 6 days. Even the uncrackable do whatever the fuck it is.
Denuvo.
Yeah, Denuvo. That shit gets blown through, and then everyone's really happy, and everyone's rooting for the hackers and crackers to get it done so they can play their regular game without always being online. Linux piracy. Yeah, even the people who buy games. Yeah, you if you're looking at your local video store for copies of Linux games, you're probably not going to find them, Brad. And
no,
that's probably a good thing. If it keeps you on Windows and that's how you want to roll, listen, everything in time. Everything in time. Yeah, stay on Windows.
Yeah, pretty much. And we don't want pirates pirating games for Linux because it's hard enough to convince devs to, give our little market segment a bit of a fair shake. And if people are not paying for these games, then they have no incentive to do their ports.
Yeah. And it's playing a little bit of the devil's advocate here. Humble games from like Humble Indie bundles and the other bundles that happen to have Linux versions, DRM-free Linux versions, those will often end up on the local video store. But do yourself a favor. Well, you can try and download them. Chances are they're not going to run out of the box. If you know what you're doing, you could probably get them to run, but chances are they're not going to work out of the box. And yeah, I'm assuming since you're a Windows user, you're not going to know what you need to do to get that game running. So yeah, stay with Windows. That's preferable.
It's built-in copy protection, that Linux, but
yeah.
I think that's a good place to cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. That's where we're here, being all wild and zany. And if you're Pedro, sleepy because he doesn't know how to take a nap before a show. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm at Vince Stone on Twitter, plus Vince Stone, Google+. Type in Vince Stone in Google. There is multiple ways to get a hold of me. I will do my best to get back to you. Not going to say 100%, but I will at least read your message, because if we can take time to send it, I'm going to take time to read it. Guaranteed.
I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me on the internet editing pirated versions of Linux games to have code that just randomizes people's boot sectors at The Burning Fool on Twitter, plus Jordan Svung on Google+.
And I was one of those people that Ben mentioned. I used to get the games less than legally, but now, if I can afford them, and nowadays I do, again, finally. So, yeah, don't pirate games, kids. I am Pedro Matheus, and you can find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter, plus Pedro Matheus on Google+.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't learn a damn thing this week, and the credits will be rolling over this, hopefully. Maybe I'll figure out a way to key them out. You can still kind of see everyone.
We need to get Ben like the Vegeta shirts from DBZ Abridged that have like Dumbcumster or whatever on the back.
Listen, listen. The bright pink bowling shirt that says "Bad Man" on it. I'd wear the shit out. But then again, I'm just going to wear that shit out in public anyway. I mean, that's not going to be a show prop. But no, we're not playing Dress Me Up Ben. That shit ain't happening, son.
Not for the amount of money we're making on Patreon, anyways.
That's the thing. Pretty good. I mean, nothing straight up exploded.
That's
This is
good.
How's the utilization on the resins?
Let's take a look. Also considering we have 7 virtual cameras running. Ryzen's boop.
Between
About how I have to.
30%. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one core that's getting hammered, but that's
the one core that's always getting hammered.
That's definitely thing. Current temperature, it hasn't cracked 50 yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Only using a hair under 8 gigs of RAM.
7.35. Yeah. Hey, man.
That's a lot of virtual cams running.
Yep.
Boop.
Oh, yeah.
It's been
all right.
It's been brilliant.
All right. How are the credits? They done?
Close enough.
You're done.
I know 5 dudes.